This video is brought to you by the Disc Golf Depot, largest selection and best prices in the Pacific Northwest. What's up, guys? Welcome to my review of the Innova Star Wraith. Big thank you to the Disc Golf Depot for sponsoring this video. Check them out on Facebook or just Google Disc Golf Depot, Portland, Oregon. You can find their address, their phone number, all that good stuff. Definitely go check out the shop. Tell them I sent you. They're my preferred place to buy my plastic and one of my long-term sponsors, and I really appreciate continuing to work with the Disc Golf Depot. The Star Wraith is a classic distance driver. It's been on the market as long as I've been playing disc golf. It flies amazing, and it's one of those discs that's kind of come back into popularity a little bit. It's always been a good selling disc from what I understand, but we're also starting to see some of the top players on Innova like James Conrad and Garrett Gurthey kind of show us once again how good the Wraith is. I think it's been overshadowed by the Destroyer a little bit over the years, but the Wraith being a tick slower and a little bit less stable on average, I think it's a little bit more throwable for the average player and actually complements the Destroyer quite well. So let's take a look at this thing first of all. Star Wraith, distance driver, 11, 5, -1, and 3 are the flight numbers. I would say those are basically spot on from our testing. I love the Star logo. I've always thought that looks really, really clean and simple. It's just a really beautiful looking disc. I've always loved this Star stamp here. It's great. Ken Climo, 12-time world champion, and Innova Disc Golf, of course. On the bottom, you'll see this thing is 172 grams, and you can also see that it's marked Wraith kind of stamped into the plastic, which is an indication that it's a somewhat new run. The older runs would have WR marked with pen. This thing is pretty flat. There's no real pop top to it. It's got a little bit of a pop, but it's definitely not board flat, and it's definitely not domey. It's somewhere in the middle, but it's definitely more on the flatter side of things, I would say. The rim profile is very comfortable and has a nice feel. It is not sharp. There's no hot spots. There's no squared off edges, really. Got a little bit of a squared edge on the underside here, but it's a really comfortable feeling disc in the hand. It's a little bit narrower in terms of width compared to something like a Destroyer, which I'll show you in just a second. But yeah, really just kind of a classic shape. There's no real defining characteristics to the shape of this disc. It just feels really nice and has a very smooth lines, and the design of it feels great in the hand. Let's put it up next to some other options. This is the closest thing to a Wraith in my bag would be the Thrasher. This is an ESP bottom stamp Val edition Thrasher. You can see that the Wraith actually might have a little bit more width to it on the rim than the Thrasher, even though the Thrasher is considered a 12 speed. Let's see if I can kind of represent that. It almost looks like the Wraith has a little bit of a wider rim. Kind of hard to say. I don't have the calipers to measure that, nor do I really care to go that deep. But it does look like it might be a touch wider. This is a Paul Macbeth Zeus, 12, 5, -1, and 3. So basically the same, except just a little bit faster in terms of flight numbers. And I would say, based on my testing, these two discs are quite similar. Overall, I would say this particular Zeus is a little bit more understable for sure, but not a huge difference in flight overall. There's a little side-by-side there. And last but not least, I have a Ricky Destroyer. Let's take a look at that. Also, check this out, guys. This is interesting. So I had this thing in a milk crate, right, in plastic, and I think where the sun was hitting it through my window here in this back room, it bleached the disc. Like, if you look at it, it was this really rich, dark orange. And then it bleached it out, and you can see the pattern of the milk crate. Pretty weird. I've never seen that before, but I'm not too mad at it. It looks pretty cool, actually. And here we are side by side with a Destroyer. Now, there's going to be some differences in the Destroyer with the parting line and stuff, but you can see there that the Destroyer definitely just has a little bit more rim to it. That's about it. There's not huge differences in the way these are shaped. The Destroyer, yeah, definitely some slight differences, and just a tick more width to the rim. All in all, the Star Wraith feels really great. It's super grippy. I love the Star plastic. It's durable, but it feels really nice throughout. You know, fresh off the shelf, it's grippy and feels great. As it breaks in, and it'll continue to be grippy and beautiful all the way through the life of the disc. And it's definitely my favorite plastic that Innova puts out. This thing's super grippy. It feels really nice. It's got some give in the hand. Like you can see, it digs into the thumb a little bit and allows you to really get a nice grab on it. Star plastic, one of the best plastic types on the market. Let's talk about the flight of this thing. So it is the perfect kind of little bit slower, a little bit straighter complement to something like a destroyer. The average destroyer is going to be a little bit more overstable than the average Wraith. You can find Wraiths that are super overstable depending on the run and the way all that stuff comes out. You can definitely find Wraiths that are much flippier than this one as well. But I think this is actually a perfect representative of the classic stock 170 to max weight-ish Star Wraith you're going to end up with. I think this actually worked out perfect. I wanted to just kind of represent what you can expect, just getting a stock Star Wraith off the shelf. That's all this disc is. It's not a special run or anything. And I think this thing really captures it. It's something you can throw really hard. You can throw it really hard and flat. It will tick up a little bit, but it'll just hold super straight up to speed and then have a consistent and reasonably strong fade once it slows down. So if you have tried a destroyer and you just feel like it's just that little bit too stable, a little bit too fast for your arm speed, a Wraith could be an awesome choice. Also, you could look into like a DX Wraith or a Pro Wraith. If you get like an older Pro Wraith, it's got a little bit of wear on it. It's going to be a little bit more understable. Stretch out extra distance for the average player. I think 11 speeds are a nice kind of in between the really fast distance drivers, 12, 13, 14, and something like a 9 speed or so. It's definitely got a noticeable step up in the speed and stability over something that would be around 9 speed. But it's not quite super fast, big rim where you really have to throw it with a ton of power. Great disc for the average player with an average arm. For me, I find it to be pretty overstable, and then it swings in pretty hard, but this thing will break in to be really nice and fly a lot straighter and a lot farther for the average players. Straight off the shelf, this is a great disc for players to throw with a little bit more power than I do. James was working this disc on some really nice angles. He might end up with this one eventually, not really sure, but definitely a great disc and a great representative of the Star Wraith overall. It's something you can throw really hard and flat. You'll get a straight flight with a nice consistent fade at the end of the flight. Gets almost all the distance of a faster disc, and depending on your arm speed, you could actually end up throwing this disc farther than you throw something a little bit faster. I know that's confusing for some of you newer players, but it's a little bit easier for you to throw it when it's a little slower, and something like a Wraith could actually stretch out more distance than a faster distance driver for the average player. We've seen James Conrad and Garrett Gerthy throwing huge bombs with this disc, and they are two of the farthest throwing players in the world, so obviously you can handle pro-level power as well, but it is a little bit more throwable for the average player. Great disc, absolute classic. Depending on what you guys end up with, there could be some variations in the flight of the Wraith. I've seen some tie-dye champion Wraiths, flat top tie-dye champion Wraiths that were extremely overstable, almost like an X-Cal or something like that. Then I've seen some Pro Wraiths and Blizzard Wraiths and stuff that are way more understable, and you can kind of hyzer flip them. So it's a good disc to layer as well. You can find some different variations in there and could put 2 or 3 of them in your bag. Have a great feeling disc that you're comfortable with, but can fly on different angles. Definitely be a good disc to look into for that as well. That is my review on the Innova Star Wraith. Thank you once again to the Disc Golf Depot. Thanks to all of you guys for your continued support. Shout out to the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Quick heads up for everybody, due to everything that's going on right now in the world, I am just going to hold on to all of my giveaway discs, leave any of the ones open that are still open for the time being, so you guys can enter any of my previous giveaways. I figured just a little bit smarter to just hold on to all that stuff, leave the contest open for you guys to enter, and then start shipping the stuff once everything kind of gets a little bit more under control. And I'm not giving away this disc, but the next review and the review after that will both be giveaways as well. So stay tuned. I will check you all very soon. Cheers. Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd.